Hello, welcome to tutorial 4 of the Secure WordPress installation series. Now that we have covered all the pre-steps of setting up FTP users and setting up an FTP account and also uploading the plugin bundle zip file, now it is time to configure the plugins to serve their purpose, that is, to secure a WordPress installation. Tutorial 4 will go into more details to explain how better WP Security plugin works and what is its main functionality, what security features it provides. So before we do any configuration part, let me talk a little bit about Better WordPress Security. Better WordPress Security is a security plugin that offers some of the main security features to protect your WordPress installation from hacking attacks. Those features include checking to make sure that you don't have the default admin user account, and if you do, it gives you an option to change it. It gives you an option to remove the database user with ID 1, which corresponds to the admin user. It lets you change the database prefix to a random value instead of VP underscore. It lets you hide the admin area completely for a certain period of time. It lets you see the logs and send notifications to your email in case some files on your file system changes and so on. It really covers a whole lot of aspects of securing your WordPress installation. For more information, you can always go to wordpress.org and under plugins, type Better WP Security, and then here, once you click on the link, you will be able to see more information about this particular plugin, check the reviews, which is always good to do, and so on. So before we get started and configure Better WP Security plugin, let's do some few cautionary steps. First, create a local directory. I created WP Backup, where you're gonna store your WordPress installation backup, because before we install the plugin, it's a good idea to back it up locally so that in case something goes wrong, you always have a backup version. So open FileZilla, use your connection that you saved a few days ago, or in the tutorial 1 actually. Now I'm just gonna go under, I'm here under the backup. My backup directory is empty, and now what you just have to do is copy wherever the directory where your WordPress installation is located, copy that from the right side, which is your hosting side, to your local side, which is your left side. So now, since everything WordPress related is in the security directory for me, I'm gonna right click the security directory and just click download. This will download all my installation from WordPress. And again, as usual, remember what I mentioned, that you need to make sure that all the files are successfully transferred. There is almost around 400 files that we'll be copying this time, and this might take a few minutes. So give it some time to make sure this succeeds. Okay, perfect. The backup completed, and as you can see, I was mistaken, so it's actually 1231 files, and you can see under here, under successful transfers, you're gonna see that same number. Let's close FTP client. We don't need it anymore. Let's double check our local directory to make sure the backup has been taken. So here under WP Backup for me, security, I see these are the files, and then I can close this. Let's go into our admin area and activate the WordPress plugin. Under the plugin tab for Better WP Security, we're just gonna say activate. Once the plugin has been activated, you're gonna see a message here says plugin activated, and a new tab called security will be shown on the left tab. Let's click on that one. So here, the first step, this tells you create a database backup before you begin any installation, any configuration. This means that if you have any issues, you can always restore back to the backup. And this backup will be sent to my administrator email at ninasebastian@gmail.com. So I'm gonna definitely do this, create a database backup before I do anything. And then it offers me an option to secure my site from basic attacks, or I prefer to configure it myself, but no, that's why I installed the plugin. So let's use the plugin to help us secure the site. And as you can see, the dashboard opens up, and dashboard has different colors. Each color has its meaning. If you check below, items in green are fully secured, items in orange are partially secured, items in red are not secured and you should secure those immediately, and items in blue are not fully secured but they can conflict with other themes, plugins, and other configuration. First, it's very important to understand that that some of the configurations we change could affect the site's functionality. So it's very important. This is the first thing ever done, because otherwise, you can lose a lot of content or data, which you don't want to do. The most riskiest step is step 20. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, but I did on my installation for some of the other trials. I had to redo it a few times. If this breaks, this means that sometimes you'll have to start your installation from complete scratch, completely delete everything, uninstall WordPress from your hosting, and then reinstall everything from scratch. But I'm going to start with this step as being the most riskiest. This means you should rename the VP content directory of your site. Click here to do so, and let's see what it does. As you can see, there is a big warning to make sure you back up everything before doing this, because this is a high risk item. Again, you don't have to do it if you don't feel comfortable. You can provide any directory. For the directory name, you can provide anything that you want. For the sake of this test, I'm going to call it as Nina content, but you can call it again anything you want. I'm going to save these changes, and as you can see, settings saved. I'm going to log out from this, and then I'm going to completely close off my Internet Explorer, and I'm going to log back in. And I'm going to hope that nothing really broke. So I'm going to close this all tabs. I'm going to open the new Explorer window. I'm going to go to my site. Okay, so let's log in. Okay, here we are back in business. We're going to go back to the security tab. And now let's try to do step by step. The first step is you're enforcing strong passwords, but not for all users. So let's click here to fix. Okay, if you go here, see, strong password role is set for administrator. So we want to make sure that the lower level user, which is a subscriber, that person also enforces strong passwords. And I'm going to say save changes. Once the changes have been saved, I'm going to go back to the dashboard. And now I'm going to go, you see the first item turning green. Now I'm going to go to item number 2. Your WordPress header is still revealing some information to users. Click here to fix. So let's fix it. We're gonna say here, remove edit URI header. This is only important if you use external XML RPC services such as Flickr. I don't use, so for me it's not really useful, so I don't need it. So I'm gonna say save changes. Now I'm gonna go back to the dashboard. As you can see, this is green. Non-administrators cannot see available updates. We don't have to do anything there. The admin user has been removed, so that is my case, because you can see that my user ID here is not admin, it's Enkika Grankika. If you have an admin user, it's probably going to give you an option to change it, and please do so. This is probably one of the biggest items to address. Number 5, as user with ID 1 still exists. Let's click to change it. It is important that your database user ID 1 does not exist, because that's the one that corresponds to the admin account. So now once we click on the button change user 1 ID, it's going to change its number. Okay, that's it. We don't have to do any action. We just click on the button, and then it's going to tell you congratulations, you don't have a user with ID 1, which is perfect. Now we're going to go back to a dashboard. Number 6, it says your table prefix should not be VP underscore. So we're going to say click here to rename it, and it's only a button click. It says there is a warning to back up your database. We did it, right? So now we're just going to click the button, change that database prefix, and this is going to give you a random database prefix under VP underscore. This is going to be your database prefix moving forward. We're going to go back to the dashboard. Number 7, you are not scheduling regular backups of your WordPress database. Click here to fix. So let's fix that. For the full WordPress backup and restore for the file system, they have an option to get backup buddy. I haven't played with it myself, just because I always use FileZilla to copy my file system down locally, as you can see, because this probably will require you to have some cloud storage or something, or even FTP, to function properly. But you may definitely explore that further. We are here concerned with the database backups, and we don't have to create one because you already did, so I don't have to click on this step. But what I want to do, I want to schedule automated backups to run once a week. So I'm going to check this box that says enable schedule backups. For the backup interval, I'm going to say 1 week. I'm going to also enable this checkbox to say send backups by email. This is the admin email address where I'm going to be receiving the emails, and it's going to say how many backups to keep. I'm going to say 10 backups. This means that you can back up your database up to 10 weeks ago, which is perfect. And once I set this up, I say save changes. Okay, settings saved. As you can see here, I'm going to go back to the dashboard to address the next item. Number 8, your WordPress admin area is available 24/7. Do you really update 24 hours a day? Before we address item 8, let's go to settings and make sure that the time zone is set up correctly. Let's go under settings, and you see here I have a time zone of UTC +0, which is not correct. So we have to put as UTC -5 for Eastern time zone. Again, if you make sure you to put whatever the time zone you are in. Let's have save changes and let's see if this time is correct. So that is correct. 23:14 is the current time, and you can change different items in this settings page, but that's completely up to you. So now we're gonna go back to security. We're gonna go back to we're back at our dashboard, and let's address item number 8, which says your WordPress admin area is available 24/7. Obviously, we don't need this to be available 24/7 because during the night you obviously sleep, so you probably would like to log that down. So first, you wanna check this box called Enable Away Mode, and I'm gonna say yep. I want to do that, and it says check the local time zone, so we just updated the time zone, so we should be covered. Type of restriction, I'm gonna say set daily, so one time just tells you the exact time, and then if you select the one time, you have to specify the start date and the end date. If you choose the daily one, you just really have to specify what is the start time and the end time. I'm gonna put for restriction from 1 a.m. every night to 11 a.m. every day. So this means that between 1 a.m. every night and 11 a.m. my admin area is not available, so you will not be able to log in at all. This is good to kind of keep away from other people trying to log into your site, and just choose the time that you know that you're sleeping or doing something else at work, that you're not going to be trying to log into the admin side of your site. And now I'm just going to save changes. Now I'm going to go back to my dashboard, and I'm going to go to step 9. You're not blocking bad hosts and agents with hackrepair.com blacklist. Let's fix it. First, I'm gonna check this box that says enable default ban list. What it means that it's gonna check some of the blacklist IP addresses from hackrepair.com, and then if they find some of those, they will block them automatically. And I'm also gonna say enable ban users features to make sure that we can ban users from the site. And here, if somebody tries to log into your admin area, and eventually you will get a notification on the email if you set this up correctly, I would really recommend putting different IP addresses here. And then ban user agents, you can leave that empty for now. And now we're just gonna say save changes. We're gonna go back to our dashboard. For some reason, this hackrepair.com did not update, so let's go back, and we're just gonna say enable default users, and you have to say add host and agent blacklist button. So that will actually save it. Go back to dashboard, and as you can see, the number 9 is covered as well. Number 10, your login area is protected from brute force attacks. Great. Let's go. It said number 11, your WordPress admin area is not hidden. Let's fix it. So what it does is, first we have to turn on permalinks. That's gonna give us how you wanna display your posts and comments. I'm gonna probably go with the month and name, right? So you specify this is the directory where my WordPress installation is, and it's gonna, every time there is a new post, it's gonna be created under 2013-12 and then a sample post. I'm gonna save changes. So now I'm gonna go back to the security. I'm gonna go back to number 11 and then enable hide backend. This is to hide the backend. And now the question, you have to set up login slots. You can change these names, and whatever you put in here is gonna come on the end. So if I change this to login_Nina, this would change. If I, let's say, save it, this would change to login_Nina, you see. But I'm just gonna leave it as login, register, and admin, but feel free to change it. So I think this is probably better to be changed to something else. I left these as login, register, and admin for myself. This is very important to take a note of, because every time now you try to log in for the admin area, you will be using /admin. You're not going to be using /vp.admin. So that's very important to remember. If you somebody tries to register, they're not going to be using, I'm not sure what is the default one, but they have to use register one. If you try to log in, you have to do /login. There's not going to be the default ones anymore. And now we're going to click on this button to generate a new key, and we're just gonna say save changes. And the new key that was generated is this key. What it does, that it will always attach this key to your WP login PHP file when you try to log in. This is very important to take a screenshot of this or make a note of, because this is gonna be your new URL to access the admin area of your site. So please make sure to take note of this. Let's go back to the dashboard and let's see what is number 12. Your htaccess file is not secured. Click here to fix it. htaccess file is the file that governs pretty much access to the site. So under the server tweaks, let's enable everything. Let's protect files. This is going to protect different files: readme XML, readme tags, vpconfig, and so on. And disable directory browsing, so it prevents users from seeing a list of files in a directory when no index file is present. Filter request methods, we're going to enable that. Filter suspicious query strings, we're going to enable that. And filter non-English characters, we're going to also enable that. And we're just going to say save changes. We're going to go back to a dashboard, and number 14 says your installation is not actively looking for changed files. We're going to say click here to fix, and we're going to enable this box called file change detection. We're going to enable that. Your server has less than 128 of RAM dedicated to PHP. If you have many files, a lot of active plugins, this feature may result in your site becoming disabled. So I say okay. This is the message that popped up from a web hosting company. If you have something similar, you might want to just bump up that to 256 or eventually to a gig of memory. Display file change admin warnings. We definitely want to see these warnings every time you log in. If some of the files change, it's going to give you a warning to say, hey, the files changed. If it was you, you say, okay, cool, dismiss it. Then if it was not you, then you can view the logs and see maybe what happened. It's kind of scary. And you can have this email file change notification. You check that box. That's going to actually send you an email once the files change. It's going to send it to the email address provided. And then exclude the list. I'll left this as this exclude. This means that if you include is selected, that only the content of the directories that you list in this box will be checked. If you leave the exclude box, all the directories and files will be checked on your file system. And now we're just going to say save options. We're going to go back to a dashboard. Number 15, your installation accepts long URLs. This can lead to vulnerabilities. So let's fix that. So let's just check all of them. Reduce comment spam, remove write permissions from htaccess and vpconfig, display random version number to all non-administrative users. So I just want to go back to this one. Remove write permissions from htaccess and vpconfig files. What this means that the file permissions on the Unix side, if you check through FileZilla, will be 444, which means that even if you want to change this file, you will have to change the permissions to 644, which is write, read, read, and then be able to modify it. But for you, it's probably, or for us, right, it's good to just leave it as 444, that we cannot modify, only can view it. Then we have display random version number to all non-administrative user, prevent long URL strings, limit the number of characters that can be sent in the URL. This is a good way to also help and turn off file editor in WordPress backend. This means that any file that you want to edit, you will have to edit from your FTP client, and you will not edit it from the file editor in WordPress. Again, these settings you can always go back and modify, which is the best part about it. And we're gonna go back to a dashboard, and we are left with 18. We kind of took few of them at the same time. Your installation doesn't accept long URLs. We finished that. You're not allowing users to edit theme and plugin files from the backend. We covered that. Better VP security is allowed to write to vpconfig and htaccess files. That's fine. vpconfig and htaccess files are not writable. Version information is obscured. You have renamed the VP content directory. That's the first thing you remember that we did. And now we are left with one more. You're not requiring a secure connection for logins or for the admin area. This will stay like this. Please make sure, as there is a big warning here that also says that you have secure socket layer enabled with your hosting, and that you're able to connect securely to your site. If not, leave this disabled, but make sure to verify this, otherwise you can get locked out. I got locked out completely from the site. I was like, let's just see what happens, but eventually I got completely locked out, which was not cool. So I actually had to contact the hosting company to modify one of my htaccess files to disable SSL. So I'm gonna leave this as is. Now all of the items on the dashboard we covered except the SSL. And one way to check, I don't know if you know this, but pretty much this dashboard went to these different tabs setup. So now we're just gonna go again to those tabs to make sure everything is set up the way we want to. So now let's go to the user tab. This is just checking the admin username to make sure you don't have an admin user account, and to make sure you don't have a user with ID 1 in your database. We covered that, so we are good. The next tab is away. Remember we set to be away daily from 1 a.m. to 11 a.m. Nobody will be able to log in. Perfect. Next step is ban. What are the users that we're going to be banning? We're going to be using hackrepairs.com blacklist, and also we're going to be banning the users. There were different hosts before that I used to ban. You might want to ban as well. So some of the IP addresses include different lists. You can add these, so that this means that these users are banned from your site, that these particular IP addresses will not be able to access your site. We're gonna save this. Now we're gonna go to the next step, which is directory. Remember, we changed the content to Nina content, and this is the most important part here, is that you do this first and that you have all your FTP, everything closed, that nothing is open to the current installation. Backups, as I mentioned, you can explore backup body, or you can use the FTP client to backup your file system. And we created a database backup, that's a one-time thing, and we also scheduled automated backups to run once a week, and backups to be sent to the email address that is provided with the admin account. And we're going to be keeping 10 backups. You can change this to 5 or whatever works for you. Prefix, remember, we changed the database prefix to a random value. This is the value. Your value is going to be definitely different. Hide, we hid the backend, and this is going to be the new login slugs, login, register, and admin slugs we're going to be using. Make sure to take a note of this, because this is very, very important, and this is going to be your secret key that's going to be also populated in your htaccess file. On the detect area, I don't think we covered completely here. When it comes to 404 detections, 404 means that a file is not found, and usually what happens if the hacker tries to go into your site and you change, let's say we change the admin to a slug instead of VP admin, we're just going to be calling it admin. If another hacker comes and tries to do VP admin, it's going to give a 404 error, and that becomes an intrusion if it happens a lot of the times. So now make sure that you have this first box enabled, to enable for 404 detections and enable for notifications, and those notifications will be also sent to the email. Check period, you can leave the check period for, let's see, check period is probably good to leave as 5. Error threshold, I'm gonna put that as a 5. So check period means the number of minutes in which 404 errors should be remembered. So in 5 minutes, how many errors will I let? And I said error threshold is 5, so I'm going to let 5 404 errors happen within 5 minutes before I log the user, right? And then once I log the user, I'm going to change this to 30. The user will be logged out for 30 minutes. You can put this number to be 60 or to be whatever you want it to be. And then you're gonna put, I wanna check this blacklist repeat offender, which means that if somebody, talk about threshold, the threshold is 3. What this means that if somebody gets logged out for 30 minutes 3 times because of the 404 errors, it's gonna get blacklisted and it will be banned from, it's gonna be added to the banned user list. Remember the list that we populated, and if you'll never be able to access your site again. It is very important to put your IP address in the 404 whitelist, which means that if you, let's say, try things out or test things out and get a not found error, you will not be locked out of your site. So make sure to find your IP address, and there is different sites that you can find. iplocation.net, and it's going to tell you immediately what is your IP location. So this is my IP address. So this IP address you can put in the 404 whitelist. And now let's verify the file change detection. We already covered this, but we're going to enable the file change detection and also file change admin warning. If some files change on the file system, we want to be notified by an email to the admin email address you provided. And since we specified exclude, we're gonna have this check all files and directories under this file system. And then we're just gonna save the options. Next step is login. So under the login side, let's see what we're gonna change. We set enable login limits. So what are the limits we're gonna put? Maximum login attempts per host. We're gonna do 5. So host, which means an IP address, can log in 5 times before we log them out for providing a wrong username and password here. And maximum login attempts per user, we're going to do that as a 5. So if a user also messed up her username and password, they're going to have 5 attempts before they're logged out, and that all has to happen within 5 minutes. So if the user has wrong 5 attempts, within 5 minutes they got logged out, and they're logged out for 15 minutes. I also checked the blacklist repeat offender, and the blacklist threshold is 3. So if the person gets logged out 3 times, it's gonna be added to the ban hosts or the ban list. If the user or host is logged, I want the email notification to be sent. That's why enabled emails to the admin address, email address, and you just save changes. All right, almost there. SSL, as I mentioned, only enable if you know that you have secure socket layers provided by your hosting company. If not, leave those unchecked. Tweaks, let's see, these all have to be checked. So protect files is checked, disable directory browsing is checked, filter request method is checked, filter suspicious query string is checked, filter non-English characters is checked, header tweaks, we check those, and some of them were default setting as well. Hide team update notification, those are all checked. Enable strong passwords, we set the least user to be subscriber, so means for all the users. Remove login error messages, write to WordPress core files, so that the WordPress security can write to the files. Reduce comment spam, remove write permissions from htaccess and wp config files, display random version numbers to all non-administrative users, prevent log URL strings, and turn off file editor in WordPress. So we are covered here, there was no changes, everything was checked. And last tab finally is logs. So the nice thing that it tells you in the database how many your database contains 30 404 errors. I'm not sure how and why, but okay, I had a 404 error before, so now you should be having 0, but this is always a good thing to, you know, after a few weeks you can always remove this data and start from scratch. Obviously you wanna, the lower number you have, the better. So you remove the data. This tells you how many logged out hosts you have. There is no currently logged out hosts, and pretty much that's it. So this is a good page to always check if something happened with your site, how many errors you have, and then on the details it's gonna tell you what are the 404 errors, from what IP addresses, what are the bad login attempts, from what IP addresses, what are the logouts in the system, and what were the change files. And then once you see the change files, you will know if you changed those or they got changed by somebody else, which is not a good sign. And that covers our complex better WP security plugin configuration. I hope that this is not confusing. Once we cover this part, everything else is really much simpler and much more straightforward. So I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks a lot for your time.